right, welcome back to the latest episode of Have You Seen? I am Nick, and this is
My name is Lance.
This week, I guess, I offered up a double feature because I figured we wouldn't have a whole lot necessarily about either of them, so cram two movies and get them done in one little video. It's Aladdin 2: Return of Jafar. I think it's just called The Return of Jafar. And then also
Problematic.
and then one called Geisha Assassin. So, you watched Return of Jafar?
I watched it with my son.
No? How did you like that one?
Well, I would say that Jack would give it a 7 out of 10.
Because he watched it?
He watched about 45 minutes of it.
And that's a 7 for a kid.
Yeah, no, it's usually his range is like 20, 25 minutes, and then he wants to go and, terrorize stuff. But like that one, he actually sat and watched quite a bit. So I would say that Jack was like...
But what did you think about Return of Jafar?
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, didn't hate it.
I think so. I mean, Disney sequels are kind of tenuous, and they essentially were released on VHS, and back in the day we called straight to video.
And I always remember the voice coming straight to home video.
Yeah, where you would get like Little Mermaid 2, and this one's about Ariel's daughter, and she wants to be a mermaid. It's like, okay. And watch Lion King 2. This one's about Simba's daughter and Scar's adopted son. And
who knew?
Yeah.
And he looks just like him.
He does.
Wow.
He even ends up getting the scar on his eye.
Amazing.
Watch next movie 2, where it's about the kid of whomever. And I mean, you like a character, like when you're a kid in Disney. It's like, cool, I like Aladdin and Jasmine. If they put out Aladdin 2 and it was about Aladdin's rambunctious kid who wanted to become a street rat or something like that, that'd be a throwaway movie. But it is about the characters again. They're going on a new adventure. It's about the return of Jafar, which in the last movie he got like turned into a genie and like pink flicked off into the Cave of Wonders.
I'd say the movie was more about the perils of lying to your significant other.
Yeah.
Because that seemed like that was ultimately the bad guy in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it was just kind of
the wedge that was driving them apart, and then they had to come back together because, of course, fucking Jafar comes back.
Yeah.
With his almighty power, and instead of just squashing them like a bug,
he couldn't because the genie can't kill anybody.
Right. But
so I like that he had to find the workaround.
Yeah, I dug that too. Yeah, I dug it because you had Gilbert Gottfried come back, and of course, from what Amber told me is that they couldn't get Robin Williams for the second movie because he didn't like how they were using his voice in some things.
Well, when he signed up for the first movie, he's like, I'm just going to be like a character. Don't use me to sell your movie. And then it was like, the genie was the biggest on the poster with like Robin Williams and Aladdin, because that was like the first time like a known actor voiced like in a cartoon. Usually they got like voice actors. They got cartoon artists to come in and voice things. And then they would get like someone else to do the singing for them, because a lot of the times the person who sings isn't the person who does the voice acting. Because you know who Aladdin is, right? Do you remember Full House?
Was it Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
No. Do you remember
That's Lion King, right?
Yes. Do you remember Full House and the DJ's boyfriend Steve that would come over and like eat their food and like
Let's just say yes.
Well, it's just that he was if you remember Full House, that little DJ's boyfriend that would come over and...
That was Aladdin?
That was Aladdin. He voiced Aladdin.
I had no clue.
It's Rip Bob Saget. But...
Just because you said that, now I have to tell my favorite Bob Saget joke.
Please.
I used to date a girl that was 3 foot tall. I was nuts over her. I fucking love that joke. Oh my god. That's the first time I found out he wasn't like truly America's dad, and he used to be really blue comic. He told that joke, and I was like, "Fucking America's Funniest Home Videos guy said that joke." I loved it. Anyways,
so he's the voice of Aladdin. It's the thing you find out like later on in your life, and you're like, "Huh, okay." And it doesn't really affect your life. You're just kind of like, "Oh,
yeah, I didn't know that, and still nothing's changed."
Yeah, it's like, okay, I see what's going on.
Right.
But like back in the day when you'd have like. You would hire them for the voice talent, then you just get someone else that kind of sounded like them to sing the songs. and it was fun, and it was fine. But like you had Robin Williams come in, like he also sung his own songs, but he was famous, and he kind of came in, made that role his own, and then Disney used him to sell it, and he was not a fan of. So they had that kind of rocky connection where he's like, man, fuck these guys.
Okay, well that makes sense, but like, I feel like even for a straight to home video, like they got Dan Castellaneta to come in and do the voice.
They got Homer Simpson to do it,
and he did a good job.
That's as far as him. I mean, trying to fill in the energy of Genie, but not necessarily do a straight Robin Williams impression, because you can't. You're not going to do a Robin Williams impression and make it work. Well,
I feel like, from my point of view, the movie didn't really focus on like Aladdin or like I feel like Iago was like the character they focused on.
Yeah, this was the redemption of Iago's story and kind of like his kind of tenuous relationship with Jafar.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and say it. I love Gilbert Gottfried. Like I think he's great. I like how bold he is, and I know that right now there's like people that I don't want liking what I'm saying right now. Like I know he's bold, and I know he speaks out, and I know he's about freedom of speech and everything like that, which I am 100% behind. I don't believe you should say dumb shit or ask stupid questions.
It's that kind of freedom of freedom to say what you want, but not freedom from the consequences if you say stupid shit.
And even then, like, so he took consequences on like some of his jokes.
Like at the Friar Cribs roast. Or
where he did like a whole host of 9/11 jokes, and people were like, and he was just like, and he just kept going.
The fact that people hated it made him keep on going.
Yeah, and you have to admire a certain amount of bravery on that. Like you don't shy away just because people don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I admire that, but I also believe that if you say stupid things, sometimes you win stupid prizes.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I liked that Iago was kind of in the forefront on this one.
I found it kind of bold of them to give him 2 songs.
Right, and they were both good.
I liked them.
Yeah, like I thought they were pretty good.
And it's like the first Aladdin. Jafar didn't get a villain song; he got the reprisal of Aladdin song. In the Return of Jafar, he gets a song, and it's kind of like the reverse. You've got a friend in me, because he's singing second rate to the genie and kind of showing like, well, now I'm magical and I can do all this stuff, and you're just kind of the leftover genie. And it was fun because he's doing that kind of, it's that kind of fantastical. You got a friend in me, where it's kind of like he's making columns and stuff and doing like, oh, I'm taking off my hand and it's doing like a little dance. But now it's Jafar doing it. And it's just kind of amusing to see that kind of cartoony but all powerful side of him, I think.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Then you had the characters like Abysmal.
Yeah. So Jason Alexander.
Yeah, and like he's I like Jason Alexander, but like he's Jason Alexander.
And his role is meant to be walked over by Jafar and be kind of that foil to him. I like his first 2 wishes were great. It's like, I wish I had the sunken treasure of whatever, and then he
puts him under the fucking ocean.
It's like, here you go.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, are you tired of being here? Would you like to go back? Would you like your second wish to go back? It's like, all right, 2 wishes down. Now wish me free.
Talk about a dick. It's honestly, I would have walked away from that shit and been like, I'm dropping you back in the fucking well. But yeah, Jason Alexander, I thought he was good. Funny enough, I think Abysmal was Jack's favorite character. It was like every time he was on there, of course he's getting like kicked in the ass or like
he's the bumbling.
Yeah, and Jack was just giggling his behind off on that stuff. But if I had to give Return of Jafar a 0 to 10, I'd say a 5.
Yeah,
you know what? I'll say 6 because
that's where I'm at too.
I did like the songs. Like I honestly, when you were like, "Hey, have you seen Return of Jafar?" I was like, "Fuck." Because honestly, I don't think I've watched a lot of the straight-to-home video continuations of movies.
I've not seen many of them, and that was one. And also, I mean, the sequel to this movie is also good. That King of Thieves is probably better than this one. I'm not gonna make you watch it.
All right, thank you.
Yet. So they ended up putting a Aladdin TV show on, in order to get an Aladdin TV show with like Gilbert Gottfried and stuff on. Well, you've got to bridge the gap. So this movie was kind of the pilot episode, essentially, to the TV series, which was one of the ones I used to come home from school, watch Aladdin on TV, because it was just a good old-fashioned adventure show where this, I don't know, cheesy cartoon stuff where Aladdin goes and beats the crap out of somebody. There used to be a villain who had like a skeletal hand, and like one girl that was like a cat lady, her name Mirage, and she was like Egyptian. It was fun.
I had no idea that existed.
And then King of Thieves ends up being kind of the series finale that kind of caps off all of it, where Aladdin and Jasmine finally get married. So you kind of have, they get engaged, they're kind of they engaged, then you have the adventure series, and then it all wraps up at the end. And it's
Jasmine becomes the Sultan, and he becomes the Queen.
And he becomes the Queen?
Yeah, I mean,
very progressive.
One power.
But so this, if you watch this and kind of realize that, like, well, it feels like kind of a pilot. It is a pilot, and they had Dan Castellaneta.
Was he Dan Castellaneta? He was the voice.
As voice of Genie in the series. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
You had Gilbert Gottfried all the way through it. It was great.
I would not have expected you to say. Did you have the kid from Full House as Aladdin?
I don't remember, and I have not looked it up recently.
I would think it would be hard to retain them through episodes per season.
I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily like he was a huge actor back in the day either.
Yeah, you'll make $100 an episode. I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, getting steady work as a voice actor for like a character that you get to like reoccur. I mean, that's awesome.
If you know someone, I would love to do voice acting work.
Yeah,
I know I haven't done many here, but I can do some voices. But
I mean, a pilot to a TV show. I watched this as a kid. I'm like, it's actually pretty good. And then I kind of look back on this one a bit fondly, just because of watching the TV show. And unfortunately, the TV show not being like, I can't just go to Disney Plus and watch this show for some reason. Just let me watch Aladdin. I want to go back and watch Aladdin. I want to see if it's still good, or if it's just kind of one of those rose-colored glasses shows. Watch a few episodes, see if it holds up, or am I just wrong?
You know, in doing the little bit of research for this, I actually stumbled across someone talking about how edgy Aladdin really was. Because they were talking about like some of the things that Genie was doing were like references towards like modern day things. And then they went on further to talk about how like Aladdin basically, I think they put out like a game for the old school Nintendo.
It was for the Super Nintendo and one for the Genesis as well.
And if you're going through it, like it's one of those side scrollers, and apparently you get to a particular area where there's a bomb. It's like a nuclear bomb that's underneath the sand.
Oh, really?
And it's just a throwaway thing that when you run by it, and it was like maybe Aladdin is like in the future. Where like we nuked ourselves, everything is deserts now, and they're getting back to like that point.
Yeah, that was kind of the old joke, was that it's so far in the future, and Genie knows all that stuff because he lived through it in the past.
Yeah, and that's why he's making those references.
He's making all these references to stuff he used to enjoy, like back in millennia ago.
Yeah.
10,000 years in the lamp will get you a crick in the neck.
Yeah, because he even does like the impression of it's really big shoe. You know, it's people back then wouldn't know who Ed Sullivan was. I mean,
as a kid, I didn't get like any of those references.
Yeah,
it was just funny cartoon guy doing voices.
And I wonder, you have to wonder, like whoever was like, was there a script, or did he just Robin Williams his way through that stuff? Yeah. Because like they probably had like a script, and he's just like just going off, and they're just like, could you just read the script? And he's like, no. This will be so much funnier.
On some of the old like DVDs and stuff where you can watch, like they had him come in, they convinced him to do the thing by just taking a piece of his stand-up and animating Genie doing the stand-up, and kind of like he would grow like another head, and like when Robin Williams would like talk to himself, so he had Genie talking to himself like Robin Williams did, and like split into another thing, and they were like riffing on each other, and then that kind of persuaded him to do it, and he would just kind of come in, do some bits. They would take the bits they like and animate those. They wouldn't be like, in this bit, in this time, be Rodney Dangerfield. He'd just do it. And they'd be like, funny, we can do it, and just make it work.
See, I was wondering if it was like they had like a lot of it already animated, and they were just going to be like, Robin, read the stuff. And then they go back to the animation department and be like, hey, you know those last 83 hours of drawing?
Throw that away.
That goes right in the fucking toilet. Here's Robin just going off on some shit.
Although speaking of animation going in the toilet, you've heard they did that twice with Shrek?
No.
Chris Farley voiced it. He died.
I had heard about that.
That's in the toilet. Michael Myers came in and did a voice, and he just did like his voice. And he's like, actually, you know what? I'm going to do it Scottish. So they took all that stuff and threw that in the toilet.
Okay. I think it was better for it.
Yeah, probably. But just speaking of animation in the toilet.
Because I remember I did watch some of the test footage of the Chris Farley stuff.
It's weird.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't think his... I think it felt disjointed.
Yeah, he's just doing like Chris Farley, but as an ogre.
And see, I actually like watching some of those shows where they were talking about like actors who almost got roles in certain things, and I like trying to actually visualize what it would look like, with this actor instead of this actor, especially some of the more iconic movies. And when I had heard about Chris Farley almost picked up the role as Shrek, and I was just like, they played the stuff, and it's like, oh, donkey, I'm just not feeling good today about this. Holy shnikes! It's just like that whole thing. I was just like, man, that would not. I don't think that movie would have hit like it would have.
It definitely would have been different.
Yeah.
And had it been done, that's probably what would have come out too. Because it would have been Chris Farley's last role, but it wasn't finished. Mm. So
that's probably why we got to see that little bit of the recording, just because he had died so soon after that. But
well, generally you record first, and then you kind of match voice to it, so that you can match mouth flaps and whatnot.
And speaking of another lost fucking comic icon, when Chris Farley died, that was a super sad day for me.
I was still young, so I don't think it hit me as bad as lately. Some of these things really hit you differently.
We're going to need to take 2 seconds. We'll be right back.
And we're back.
Hi, thanks. That particular commercial was brought to you by Atta Baby Eats a Boy. Atta Baby Eats a Boy. It doesn't sound like fun, but once they're here, they're pretty cool.
And the fun part about coming over to record when the baby's asleep is sometimes the baby wakes up.
Yeah. But just quick application of the pinky, we're golden. So
I don't know what that means.
Basic. Okay. Yeah, I probably should explain that. So yeah, when he sleeps, his pacifier falls out of his mouth, and then he wakes up and it's not there, and he loses his shit.
Yeah.
So then you go and you plug the off switch back into his face, and he goes right back out.
All right. So while we were walking around waiting for the baby to go back to sleep, I think we brought up what I think sets Aladdin apart was that a lot of times the Disney movies were princess movies for girls, and this one was Aladdin.
Right.
It was the boy was front and center, and Jasmine was also a big part of it too, but it's still the Aladdin movie.
Yeah, and I think it was around Aladdin when they actually flipped the script on that, because it was my wife was commenting the other day about how Disney movies are mainly girl centric, because it's always about the princesses and their journeys, and then you had Aladdin, which was about Aladdin and his journey to win Jasmine's heart and everything like that, and then right after that, I believe The Lion King came out, which was about Simba.
Yeah.
But you had Nala, who was
another princess essentially.
Right. But and why don't they sell many things with Nala on it? If you're gonna buy stuff with Pocahontas and Sleeping Beauty and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess you don't want the female lion being up there with Jasmine and whatnot.
She's cool looking though. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my favorite Disney movies, besides The Little Mermaid, because I don't give a crap about Prince Eric, that one's Ariel's cool. A lot of them have where the two love interests or whatever have equal time, which is why I like Tangled, is because Finn Rider is a cool character, Rapunzel is a cool character, and the two of them playing off each other is fun. So Aladdin is a good character, Jasmine's a good character, the two of them kind of playing off each other.
Tangled is one of Amber's favorite Disney movies.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it is good. She went back and watched it the other day. I think we saw it in the theater when it came out, and it's a beautiful movie to look at. But it's also absolutely stunning. When they're doing the floating
lamps.
Yeah, and then they have the shot of the water where you can see the image of the lamps in the water. That I forgot how pretty that movie was. But yeah, I dug Aladdin very much. It was a good movie.
That was a good one.
And I hate to draw this one short, but I don't know if we said it above board.
We're also going to be talking about Geisha Assassin.
Yeah, that was yeah.
So let's Return to Jafar 6.
Solid 6.
All right. So Geisha Assassin is one of those. It's a Japanese movie, and it's just kind of one of those ones where I back when I used to watch stuff with my brother, we would tend to just kind of go to the Best Buy or whatever and just be like, oh, zombie. Let's watch this movie and buy it for the other one and just kind of get weird stuff that we wouldn't necessarily pick out for, you wouldn't expect to see, and just kind of sit down and watch it with each other. Because either we're going to watch it and it's going to be good and we're going to have a good time, or we're going to watch it and it's going to be funny bad and we're going to have a good time. The only time that we ever struck out is when the movie is just boring and there's not much to work with.
Can you think of one time that you struck out doing it that way?
Yes. There was one movie that I don't remember the name of because it was boring and we just there wasn't a lot for us to make jokes about.
Can you hum a few tunes to see if I can guess what it was?
No, I remember so little about this movie because there was so little going on in it. It was like some sort of weird sci-fi movie, and it was kind of being like artsy and one of those artsy sci-fi movies where nothing happens. It was boring.
Sounds like Battlefield Earth.
No, that would be funny. So one of the ones that I had picked up to like make us watch was Geisha Assassin, and the way I kind of envision it is if you were to take like a fighting game and make a movie about you kind of going through and fighting a bunch of dudes and just like I'm just gonna make a movie like that. It's a lady that is a geisha and just fights a bunch of people like in a row. She finishes one. It's like I gotta stop the evil guy and he threw some couple henchmen at me, so she fights the henchmen. Then she moves on to find them. Then it's time to fight the kunoichi and her ninjas, so she fights them, and then she moves on. It's a monk is here, and then you gotta fight the monk and move on. And the story is
batshit.
Is bare,
yeah,
because it's guy killed her father.
It's impressive that you come this far, even for a girl. But now you will not get past my 5th mini boss that I'm throwing at you.
Yeah, there was like two, like she shows her doing like a little geisha dance at the beginning, kind of like over the credits, be like, oh, here's a geisha, and then she's going after the samurai guy because he's a lot of these characters like their name or their position. Like she is geisha, he is samurai, and so she's going after him. He's like, "Hey, you followed me," and he fights the 2 goons. And the 2 goon fight was kind of fun.
It was fun.
Like a lot of the stuff is kind of cheesy actions where you can see them like swinging swords at each other, and they're just doing clang noises when like those swords weren't touching each other at all, but they were going clang clang clang.
Yeah.
But like that one fight had something I really liked, in which the guy runs and he's like, you're not so bad yourself," and then she just kind of leans down and like throws his hand at him, and then he looks down and his hand is gone.
It was one of those flicks that when you proposed that we watch it, I was just like, oh shit, here we go, because I thought this was going to be the one that you were slipping on me, where it was like, this is going to be a horrible movie, but we watched it together here at the house, and we had a lot of fun with it because it was another one of those movies that you can kind of talk through and like make jokes as it goes along, and it doesn't really ruin the experience.
No.
But like the fight scenes were, I'd say they were solid.
Yeah.
Like whoever did the choreography in the movie, it's not like,
I mean, it's weird Japanese like sci-fi fight sort of thing where like she jumps up and kicks the sword, not like goes flying across the like something that would never happen.
Yeah.
But it's kind of amusing to watch her like just do some weird sort of fighting moves.
I mean, I think you nailed it when you said it's like watching a video game movie, because it's like physics are breaking all over the place, and like anybody that took like a little bit of physics in like high school or like some kind of honors course would be like bullshit. But the one thing I really dug about it was so back in the day, I used to get really high, go over to a buddy of mine's house and watch old Shaw Brothers like Chinese martial arts movies. And the one thing I used to love about, like, you had the one guy that wanders into town, and then like the gang of 15 guys run out, and they're all like gonna fight him, and like every single time it's like, even though there's 15 guys around this dude,
that's one at a time.
It was one at a time. As soon as he dispatched the one guy, the next guy would run in. And then my favorite thing back then was like, I'd get super high and I'd watch the people that were in the background, and like they'd walk in with the sword and be like, oh, and then they'd walk in with the sword, oh yeah, and or they would just keep posturing, and then is it my turn? Okay, right, yeah, and there was even one where I remember like when it was, there was a count of like, this guy goes down, you go. This guy goes down, you go. And then like 2 guys walked in, and then you saw the one guy's like, oh, it's not my turn.
It's not my turn yet.
Yeah. I used to love watching those because they're one of those movies that are so bad, they're good.
Yeah. You're watching it for the cheesy fights.
Yeah. Sonny Chiba, the Street Fighter, like those movies are just, they're so good. Old school like Jackie Chan movies where he has like Yuen Bu and Sammo Hung. Those movies are just awesome. Police Force, City Hunter, those are all worth a watch if you could find them. Especially City Hunter, that was a great one, which is also an anime, and I think they made the show because of the anime, or it could be vice versa. I don't know. But anyways, I thought you were throwing me. One of those. I thought you were throwing me a curveball where it was gonna be like, this movie is utter trash, but like the fighting, awesome. The storyline.
It's whatever. I mean, it's the reason for them to have the fights.
Yeah.
And something you brought up while we were watching it is you mentioned the old school, like, I expected people just to be in the background, like, waiting for their turn. But when she's fighting, like, the 3 ninja, they're all coming at her at once. And they're doing, like, the weird, they hold the sword out and, like, fly fly across the wind thing, and she got to the point where she like blocks all of them and like throws them all back. But
Yeah.
they're all coming at her at once. It's not like the.
And then she would even do like the flourishes where she's fighting the one guy, then she's fighting the other guy, and the other ninja would start coming in, and she'd do the flourish where like she leans back and like throws the sword over her head behind her to like get the guy back. So there was no like walking in, walking out.
It's not waiting your turn for the fight. They're all coming at you once, and she's fighting them all back.
Now that we've said that, the 2.5 people that go and watch this are going to be like, nah, this fight choreography's bad. For what it was,
yeah, it's fun.
I feel like they put the bulk of the money in the fight choreography, and it's over the top like Dragon Ball style, like fights.
Well, I think there's a couple even standout moments, like because there was the kunoichi and her three ninja, and like one of them has the geisha like at a lock, and the kunoichi's like, you guys are taking too long. So she runs up, stabs through the ninja, and stabs the geisha, and I'm like, that's cool. I've not seen that before. Where it's like she just runs through her own person, but you don't. I mean, when you're fighting someone, you don't expect a sword to come through them and stab you. So she's not ready for that.
Yeah, and she got hit in that one. It was kind of like, yeah, I'm that kind of bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. If I had to give that movie a rating, I'd say 5.
See, I'm thinking it's about a 5 for me too.
Yeah.
Whereas like you're not watching it for the story, but like it's entertaining enough. Like you throw down, you watch it, you watch it for the fights, and maybe like when he's going through the backstory of like, your father was a teacher of this particular thing. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a geisha, and like whatever. But now it's time to fight the monk, and he's got like that sectioned staff, and then they get to like the bare hand brawl, and she like suplexes the monk, and like it's fun.
That shit was dope. I did not expect that.
Yeah. And there's like the one fight where she fights the Ainu, the lady with like that came out with a knife, and like that's like when she put the geisha put her hand up against the tree, just elbowed her hand a bunch.
Yeah.
And then it devolved like into like, I've got my sword, you got your knife. I'm gonna throw my sword aside. She's like, I'm gonna throw my knife aside. And then it starts dramatically raining, so they can mud wrestle and do like that kind of slow beat 'em up in the mud.
Yeah. It was and the other thing that you pointed out as we were watching the movie is that her costume keeps evolving. So she'll get into a fight on one thing, and it's like they cut off this part of it. So then, like, next she's coming through with like the bare thighs, like geisha, like thing coming down the front.
It's like she got her arms cut up in one fight, so she takes the sleeves off and like wraps them around and like, hey, look, she unlocked a new costume.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember you said that she unlocked a new costume, and I was like, and you're like, it's kind of like watching a video game movie. I was like, you're right, it is kind of like watching a video game movie. Except it wasn't Yui Bowl. Like this one was actually.
Yeah, it's like if you were to watch like, if you were to play Mortal Kombat and like the old school Mortal Kombat and fight up the tower, and then just be like, let's just shoot that movie, and it's Liu Kang fighting this guy, and Liu Kang fighting this guy, and now Liu Kang fighting this guy. I'd be like, that's the geisha fighting ninja, geisha fighting monk. Now it's geisha. It's fun.
Even with the little bit of cheesy storyline. Oh, you followed me into my castle. Well, now I'm gonna mess you up. But first fight Johnny Cage. Well, wait a minute. Why am I fighting Johnny Cage or Liu Kang? Well, we're buddies. Back in the day, we did a movie. Really?
I'm next on the tower. We're fighting each other. It's not that bad. They're all hired by the samurai, and they each have like their own kind of like if you were to watch a Japanese anime and kind of get used to the kind of like that. I can tell that guy's a monk, even though I'm not necessarily familiar with. I'm not super familiar with Japanese culture, but I've kind of through osmosis in anime watched be like, she's a Miku, a Japanese shrine maiden. That guy's like a monk from one of the shrines, and that guy's like an exorcist because he does like the whole thing, and he summons like demons. And
they always do. The monks always have the whole.
Yeah.
They always do that thing, and they always have the staff that has like the 3 rings on it.
Yeah,
and they do like the thump, and it all goes up to 1. Then they thump again, and it all goes down to the 3 different areas. But yeah, no, I'm glad I watched it. Would I watch it again?
Maybe eventually.
Yeah, eventually we're going to run into somebody that hasn't seen it. We're going to be like, oh, just have a seat and watch this movie.
It was one of those ones that I've had on my shelf. Like, I watched it with my brother, and it's like, okay, and put it on my shelf. And then a decade passes, and I'm like, we're talking about movies, and I'm like, you know what? I remember Geisha Assassin being kind of fun. It's not gonna be like, oh shit, this hidden gem. It's just a fun action movie, like a fun little kung fu movie.
Yeah, it's. I really felt like you were I thought you were zigging me. I really did. Like, I remember in one of the other videos, it was like the whole format of the show was supposed to be have you seen, but like we weren't going to tell if we were making the person watch a bad movie or a good movie. And we've been very nice to each other.
And we've also still been playing it kind of close to the chest how we feel about certain movies.
Yeah, but the format of this is sometimes I will kind of let on, like when I asked you to watch Road to Perdition, like you already knew that it was a movie that I really, really liked.
For the most part, you said, like, had you seen Road to Perdition? I'm like, I had. And he's like, well, I dug it. Well, I'm going to make you watch this one.
Yeah. But we don't want to color each other's, view of the movie.
It's like before we watched Josie and the Pussycats, I didn't tell you that. Like, that's one of my 10 movies. Like, I love that movie. I just kind of said, you should watch this movie. I like it.
But I knew Tim liked it, too.
Yeah.
So, and I feel bad about that. A buddy of ours, Tim, watched the Josie and the Pussycats review, and he was really sad that we didn't invite him to it because that's apparently one of his favorite movies too. So, in a future episode, we are going to do a revisit of the Josie and the Pussycat movie.
We'll get Tim on here to talk about Josie.
Yeah, we'll have Tim in so we can actually like really break the movie down and tell you why it's just big dumb fun.
Desor means friendship.
Yeah, but the way we've been doing this to like try and keep each other honest is we don't. Like, he'll watch the movie, or I'll watch the movie, and then we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then when we get together to do these, we don't talk about, like, I'm not asking him, what'd you think?
Yeah.
What are you going to give it? Like, we don't ask any of those questions. We just sit down.
Yeah, we want it to be in the front of the camera.
Yeah, and then we make the person who is watched the movie kind of give the rating first, and then the person who had the movie dropped on them give the rating after. So we're trying not to influence or color the other person's experience with the movie, but...
I think there's only been 2 occasions, which Sadako vs. Kayako and Geisha Assassin, where I'm like, these are movies you watch with a person. And those are the only 2 movies we've watched with each other. The rest have been like, he would give me a movie, I go home and I watch it. And just kind of like, sit down, don't let the fact that you're around friends distract you from just kind of trying to absorb the movie.
Yeah. So, but I think we need to... We were challenged by a friend of ours to watch certain movies, and I can remember 2 of them, but I can't remember the last one. We won't mention those now because I think we are going to take his challenge.
Just at some point, soon.
Yeah. But yeah, I would give the movie, right at 5. I'd probably watch it again if we had a buddy of ours that hadn't seen it, so we could sit around and shoot the shit and make fun of that one too. Yeah,
I'm at about 5 too. It's an average movie where like the fun of it comes from the action scenes, the story's weak, and like there's not really any character to it. They're kind of archetypes. So that part is not a strength. It's just you're sitting down to watch a movie of people fighting each other, and for what you get, it's fun.
Yeah.
Is it like amazing like A+ choreography? No, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's whoever did the choreography in the movie loved it enough to make it look good. Like I will say this, like I don't know if you've watched any Cobra Kai.
Not much. I think the first 2 or 3 seasons.
I'll say the choreography in Geisha Assassin was better than Cobra Kai.
Well, I think one of the reasons why it was good is because they held on it. A lot of the stuff you get in modern shots would be like punch, cut, punch, cut. This person cut. This person cut. Whereas this, it would be like you hold on the geisha and like the ninjas, and they just go at it for several moves, and then now one's doing like a rope trick or something like that, so you have to cut to him. But for them, like you hold on it, you hold on the action,
right,
and kind of see the people, like the actors know the choreography.
Yeah, in Daredevil, when they did that one long fight scene, the hallway fight scene, that was so good. And I think the first movie to do something like that was a movie called Old Boy.
I think they did it in Raid too. But Old Boy, yeah, I know that's one.
Yeah, and because I remember that's the one that everyone raved about. And I went back and watched like the old version of it, and then I went back and watched the new version of it, and still good movies. But like, I hate when you have jump cut fight scenes, like Spider-Man, No Way Home. Love the movie, but I still stand firm on the whole last fight between him and the Goblin.
Too many jump cuts.
Yeah, it was just, it seemed like they would throw a punch, cut, throw a punch, cut, throw a kick, cut, and it's just, I can't follow that shit.
Yeah, it gets dizzying sometimes. There was like a one infamous scene from Taken 3 in which Liam Neeson going over a fence has like 13 cuts. It's like him running cut. Because like he's an older man climbing, like leaping up over a fence. You have to kind of take what you can get from a bunch of stuff, but it makes it so hard to watch.
See, I don't think that was the case. I think it's because Liam Neeson's so fast, you have to cut so you could see him.
It's the Bruce Lee having to slow down for the camera thing.
Yes, like Liam Neeson's is a badass. Yeah. So, but no, I get it. But it's just
it's hard to follow.
Yeah, when I talked to one of my friends who's like a Spider-Man aficionado, i.e. Tim, it's like I think he was the one that informed me that like William Dafoe insisted on being in that last fight scene, and it's like, why? You know, like you can't pull off the long stretch of action scene. I get it, you want it to be authentic and you want to be in the shots and you don't want to have a mushy Dafoe face moving around as like the fight scene goes.
Superimposed on some other actor.
But like that's the whole thing with those movies. It's like you watch a lot of amusing storyline and then you watch some badass superhero shit. And that last one was just literally like Hobgoblin's like, fly down. Kick you. Okay, it's time for a nap. But yeah, no. Getting back to Geisha Assassin, decent flick. I would definitely watch it again. If we had a
new friend to show it to.
So I would say if you're walking through Best Buy and you find it in the $5 bin.
No, if you can track this movie down, and you like if you were the sort to watch old kung fu movies, this might be up your alley. If you're in it for character growth and development, you can give this one a pass.
Yeah, if you like the old school martial arts movies like the Street Fighter with Sonny Chiba, or if you liked I think it was called Fist of the White Lotus, which is another one of those old Shaw Brothers movies. I think I might be wrong. Then this would be up your alley because it's just fun. You could tell someone liked those old school movies and then just kind of wanted to make a love letter to those movies. But yeah, no.
So this episode was a bit of a juxtaposition, and I knew that there's not a lot of substance to Geisha Assassin, but it's one I wanted to make you watch, and there's not necessarily a lot of substance to Jafar, Return of Jafar, but I kind of wanted you to see that there's good.
Straight to home video movies.
Good straight to video movies.
You know,
air quotes good, but it's a decent straight to video movie from Disney.
Well,
and they exist.
I appreciate you asking me to watch them, but I'm going to be honest with you. I am not going to go on a rip of straight to home video movies anytime soon. But yeah, I mean they were enjoyable, and I'd say out of the two, I really didn't expect to like Return of Jafar, and I actually really liked it.
It's kind of good. And just wait until a future episode a few months from now, and I'm like, hey, have you seen Aladdin 3, King of Thieves?
But Williams is back for that one.
Yes, he is back for that one.
Yes.
And it's Steve Winger. It's like as Aladdin. He's coming back for Aladdin.
Who?
The guy from Full House. Or Scott Winger.
Scott.
We just looked him up during the.
He has a wing in his last name. We know that.
Yeah, he's Aladdin. He is Aladdin.
If you're watching this video, Scott Winger, and you want to come and do Aladdin on our podcast, we'd love to have you.
Oh, it's just I'll be Aladdin. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's.
All right, so this episode I got to pose to you a double feature. Are you returning in kind?
I am.
All right.
So I think the way we have these lined up so far, I know we did a spooky movie.
Yep.
For Halloween. Did we do a Christmas movie?
We did not, just because we didn't record as much during Christmas, I think.
Yeah. I wanted to do a Valentine's movie.
We were going to do one, Home Sweet Home Alone, and you're like, pass.
Yes. Yeah.
I was gonna keep it on theme, and you're like, hard pass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just one of those ones where it was like literally when you suggested it, and I was like, yeah, okay. And then the weeks started going by, and as the days were going by, I was like, oh fuck,
I just don't want to watch
I've got to watch this movie. Oh god. And then I remember Amber, you were coming over Saturday to do the recording, and it's Friday, and she goes, did you watch that movie? And I went, no. She goes, did you just want to watch it tonight? And it was 11 o'clock at night, and I was tired. I was like, God, please no.
Please no.
And I remember sending you a text being like, I didn't watch the movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was my bad.
So we skipped Christmas, but now we're coming up pretty soon on Valentine's Day.
So I think for Valentine's, would you mind if we did another double feature?
Yeah, we can do a double feature.
Because I honestly...
I can eke it out, I hope.
Okay, well, it's I feel like the two movies that it's one that I really like, and then there's one that freaked me out when I was a kid.
Okay.
But I'm sure looking through the goggles of time.
So when you were a kid, so we're dealing with 1960s movies, right?
Well, actually, now that you say it, fuck you. Not that old. My hair says otherwise.
But you're older than me, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, you're glowier than me.
Yes, I am very. It's the sun. I'm allergic to the sun.
Yeah. But so for the Valentine's movie.
Yep.
The movie that scared me when I was a kid. I was thinking My Bloody Valentine.
Okay. And that's the 1980s?
It's the 80s version.
80 version, okay.
Yeah. Don't watch the 2000s version unless you have like the janky 3D goggles that came out and the 3D TVs.
I guess that was when 3D was... that was like the movie that kind of revivified 3D, wasn't it?
And around that time is when like all the 3D movies were coming back to the theaters and people were into it. And then if you've noticed, they've disappeared again. Yeah.
So I've not seen either of the My Bloody Valentine. So the 1980 My Bloody Valentine.
We'll do that one.
Okay.
Just skip the 2000.
Yep.
And that'll be the Valentine's movie.
Yes.
And then I'm thinking I'd like you to watch a movie that I actually liked. So hey Nick.
Yes.
Have you seen The Fog?
I don't think I have seen The Fog.
Okay.
Because that's another one where there's like an 80 version and then like a 2000 version. Again, we're going with the 80s version.
Watch the old school version. I mean, if you have extra time and you want to watch the 2000s version, I remember I didn't hate it, but I also prefer the old school version. Because the old school version is just better.
So I guess come next episode, expect My Bloody Valentine and The Fog from the 80s.
And if I'm predicting what you're going to think already, that video should be around 7 minutes. So
well, we could like 20 minutes piece, kind of like this one.
Yeah, but
so I imagine there's not. I mean, with slasher movies, you're like, people got killed. I have no concept of what The Fog is, so I'm not sure what to expect with that one. My Bloody Valentine, I have at least some expectation of. You're in a town, some killer shows up, and like, oh, it turns out like he kills people for a bunch of movies. It turns out it was this guy.
Yeah.
And then he gets killed. But does he get killed?
I'm not gonna ruin anything for you. But yeah, I think let's do that double feature, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Like, subscribe,
all that shit.
Comment. So, we kind of talked about like kung fu and that kind of that era, as well as direct-to-video movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let us know, is there in the comments below, is there a direct-to-video movie that is good? Is it not just Return to Jafar? Is there other Disney movies that are good, or just other movies that you like straight to video, or even straight to DVD or whatever? Like, let us know some like hidden gems. Like, if there's a Geisha assassin out there that's kind of a lot of fun, maybe this would be a good one. Like, just put in the comments.
And I know that we've talked like a little bit of shit in the past about watching series, like, but we'll watch a series. If there's like an anime that came out that's like just showed up on Best Buy shelves and stuff like that, we want to know what y'all think. Like we kind of live in our own kind of like glass bubble when it comes to like entertainment stuff that our friends bounce off us. But like, I know there's a world of entertainment out there. I've got a buddy of mine, Steve, that was like the king of B&C movies, and he would request that I watch this. I'd go over to his house and smoke a lot of stuff, and we'd watch like terrible movies, but they're like actually very good. He had a very good eye for like artsy kind of movies that were like maybe not shot on the bigger budget. And he's actually out there making movies now, and he's killing it.
Nice.
So that guy knew what he's talking about, and I'm glad I listened. But we want to know what you think. Like, we want to know what's something that turns you on that like maybe other people it's gone under their radar. And
give us some hidden gems, even if they sit around and lost skeleton and get a cut off, or watch it with your friends, sort of hidden gems.
It's a good movie.
That's a great movie.
I sleep now. But yeah, no, thank you. And just one last thing. I know that every time we say like smash the button, like, subscribe, all that shit. Honestly, if you just turn this on in the background and do anything else and just let the video run through and just go ahead and tickle the like button and tickle the subscribe button and hit the bell or whatever, we don't care if you watch it.
I still want you to watch it.
Well, yeah, we want you to watch it, but like we want to reach a further audience. So in the future, if there is a further audience, welcome. My friend's passive watching habits brought you to us. So, but yeah, no, we appreciate everybody that watched these videos.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah. So, go find something productive to do now.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah, that.